All right, recording now to the cloud. We got the cloud recording going. We're almost live here. The live is just taking a little bit longer than usual for whatever reason. Okay, here we go. So Torah weekly. Let's see, Exodus chapter 7 weekly Torah reading. And this is a pretty quick chapter. So this is going to be the chapter where they go before Pharaoh and the staff of Aaron and the staff of the magicians both turn into serpents and all that. So this is going to be a pretty self-explanatory type of chapter, you could say. So let's see here. All right, we're live. Shalom, Facebook. Shalom, all of our brothers and sisters out there watching. I'm Brother Doug with my sister Sadia and our sister Josie, and we're the Waking by Yahuwah Fellowship Group in Yahuwah Almighty and Yahusha Messiah. Today we're going to be continuing our weekly Torah readings. So we're going to be going back into Exodus, and so what I'll do here is, let's see here. I think I'll just use eSword. I mean, pretty much we're just really testing the Septuagint versus the Targums to see if there's any differences. And for this chapter, there will be a minor difference. Let me see. I think I got, so here we go. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe saying, "Behold, I have made you a mighty one to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother shall be your prophet." Now, again, what I want to show here is that Moses did not become a god, okay? I know people are going to say, see, he's a little god. No, okay? Let me show you. This doesn't always mean a deity, okay? I want to show you something real quick. I mean, we've done a video about this, are humans lesser gods, lesser mighty ones? Please check that on the YouTube channel. On my YouTube channel, I'll leave the link in the description. But this doesn't always refer to divinities and deities, okay? It can also refer to magistrates, councils. Let's see here, magistrate, okay? And I'll show you why I believe that after we read this. After we read the Septuagint version, we'll go into the Targum and show you the differences. So, but I actually believe it's more of a judge type of thing that he's referring to Moses being. I will make you a judge. I will make you a magistrate to Pharaoh. I'll tell you why. Just based on the context, you know, Yahuwah is not going to contradict in Genesis, where Genesis, he, told Adam and Kuah not to eat of the forbidden fruit. And then Satan says, you could be a god. You could be like me. Yeah, so, off of that context alone, back in Genesis 3, I really doubt Yahuwah made Masha a lesser Elohim. I really doubt it. So, anyway. Verse 2, and you shall say to him all things that I charge you, and Aaron your brother shall speak to Pharaoh, that he should send forth the children of Yasharal out of his land. And I will harden the heart of Pharaoh, and I will multiply my signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh will not hearken to you, and I will lay my hand upon Egypt, and I will bring out my people, the children of Yasharal, with my power out of the land of Egypt with great vengeance. And all the Egyptians shall know that I am Yahuwah, stretching out my hand upon Egypt, and I will bring out the children of Yasharal out of the midst of them. So, and another thing to add here is, if you've watched our other study called Who is the Right Hand of Yahuwah, you'll understand this is not just a hand he's talking about. He's talking about Yahusha here. So, Again, that's the important thing to look at in the Tanakh is certain titles that the Messiah is known by that we might not realize. Okay, the angel of Yahuwah is one. The right hand of Yahuwah, or his outstretched arm, or his outstretched hand. That's another title for Yahusha before he took on flesh. So that's just something to keep in note when you're looking at the Torah and the prophets. So, okay. So I will bring out the children of Yasharal out of the midst of them. And Moshe and Aaron did as Yahuwah commanded them, so did they. Moshe was 80 years old, and Aaron, his brother, was 83 years old when he spoke to Pharaoh. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and Aaron, saying, now if Pharaoh should speak to you, saying, give us a sign or a wonder, then shall you say to your brother Aaron, take your rod and cast it upon the ground before Pharaoh and before his servants, and it shall become a serpent. And Moshe and Aaron went before Pharaoh, before his servants. They did so, and as Yahuwah commanded them, Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh, before his servants, and it became a serpent. Now, something I want to address too, because people will just say, oh, it became a snake, whatever. Okay, let's look at what the original Greek word is here for serpent. Okay. What do you know? Drakon. What does that sound like? Dragon. It's more like a dragon. Which, by the way, we're going to get to in the Targum Jonathan. After we read through this chapter, we're going to see, we're going to specifically look at the differences with the Targum of Jonathan. So we're going to look at the differences in verse 1 and verses 9 and 10 after we read this chapter, how the Targum of Jonathan expounds a little bit on those verses of verses 9 to 10 and verse 1. So, okay, so, and how the Targum of Jonathan actually agrees with the Septuagint that it's not a little stupid little snake. It's a basilisk or a dragon. Okay, so, and I'm sorry about that, guys. I did not think my phone was going to do some stupid stuff. All right, there we go. All right, my phone's on silent now. It's not going to do that again. Okay, so to be more specific, and I'm sorry, but Brenton, you screwed up on that word there, on that Greek word. Should have been dragon. Should have just translated it as dragon, because that's what the Greek word is, drakon. So, again, that's what he should have translated as instead of serpent, because especially in our modern English, when we think of serpent, we think of a little garden snake because of our Christian upbringing, you know. So, anyway. So verse 11 here. But Pharaoh called together the wise men of Egypt, and the sorcerers and the charmers also of the Egyptians did likewise with their sorceries. Now, again, this is going to be another verse we're going to look at in the Targum of Jonathan when we're done with this chapter, because the Targum of Jonathan tells you even the names of these two sorcerers that the Pharaoh calls, which I thought was pretty interesting. So we'll look at that too. Verse 12, and they cast down each his rod, and they became serpents or dragons. But the rod of Aaron swallowed up their rods. The heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and hearkened not to them as Yahuwah charged them. Okay. Let's see here. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, the heart of Pharaoh is made hard, so that he should not let the people go. Go to Pharaoh early in the morning. Behold, he goes forth to the water, and you shall meet him on the bank of the river. And you shall take in your hand the rod that was turned into a dragon. And you shall say to him, Yahuwah Elohim of the Hebrews has sent me to you, saying, send my people away, that they may serve me in the wilderness. And behold, hitherto you have not hearkened. These things says Yahuwah, hereby shall you know that I am Yahuwah. Behold, I strike with the rod that is in my hand on the water which is in the river, and it shall change it into to blood. And the fish that are in the river shall die, and the river shall stink thereupon, and the Egyptians shall not be able to drink water from the river. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, say to your brother Aaron, take your rod in your hand and stretch forth your hand over the waters of Egypt and over their rivers and over their canals and over their ponds and over all their standing water. It shall become blood. And there was blood in all the land of Egypt, both in the vessels of wood and of the stone. Now that's interesting. So Aaron's actually doing that. Aaron's actually going to be the one, putting forth the rod out. So they kind of leave that part out a little bit in the Ten Commandments movie. It's kind of funny. They try to make it, all Moses and not show Aaron doing any of it. So that's kind of interesting. And Moshe and Aaron did so as Yahuwah commanded them, and Aaron, having lifted up his hand with his rod, smote the water in the river before Pharaoh, and before his servants changed all the water in the river into blood. And the fish in the river died, and the river stank thereupon. And the Egyptians could not drink water from the river, and the blood was in all the land of Egypt. And the charmers also, the Egyptians, did so with their sorceries. And the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he did not hearken to them, even as Yahuwah said. And Pharaoh turned and entered into his house, and he did fix his attention even on this thing. And all the Egyptians dug round about the river so as to drink water. So basically they thought that digging holes in the ground, they were going to get some clean water that hasn't been contaminated with blood. For they could not drink water from the river. And 7 days were fulfilled after Yahuwah had smitten the river. So again, that's the end of Exodus chapter 7. Now we're going to go to my Kindle app, to look at the Targum of Jonathan, because I believe we're going to get a little bit more explanation on certain topics. Like specifically, we're first going to look at verse 1 of chapter 7. We're going to look at that, Exodus chapter 7, verse 1, and really to show a second witness that Moses did not become a lesser god. I know some people will still say that, well, Elohim means mighty one, okay? I'm going to show you guys here that that's not always the case, okay? Actually, I think it's the if I'm not mistaken, the Jerusalem Targum. So that tells you that I will make him a rabbi to Pharaoh, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, okay. So it's the Targum of Onkelos. Okay. I gotta start writing this stuff down, which Targum is the best on certain verses. I gotta start jotting down notes of this. So Exodus 7:1. I mean, the Targum of Jonathan's not bad either for this verse. It will say, I will make him as if he were your Elohim, like meaning, I will make him fear you as if you were his mighty one, which still is showing that he's not his deity, if is in the verse. So, but I think the Onkelos one makes the most sense. It says here, which agrees with the interpretation that is talking about magistrate. Okay, it says here, Exodus 7:1. But Yahuwah said to Moshe, see, I have appointed you a master or rabbi with Pharaoh, and Aaron shall be your interpreter. So to me, this makes the most sense. And to be fair, the Targum of Onkelos is either the oldest of the three Targums or second oldest. So either way, it's probably the first or second most reliable when you want to talk about a literal word-for-word translation of the verse. So I think this Targum gets it correct. He was a master, a ruler, a magistrate to Pharaoh. So that's verse 1 there. Now we're going to look at verses 9 to 10 in the Targum of Jonathan. which lets you know what, more specifically, what type of animal these staves turned into. Okay, so in verse 9 of the Targum of Jonathan, it says, when Pharaoh talked with you, saying, give us a miracle, you shall say to Aaron, take your rod and cast it before Pharaoh, and it shall become a basilisk serpent. For all the inhabitants of the earth shall hear the voice of the shriek of Mitzrayim when I shatter them, as all the creatures heard the shriek of the serpent when made naked at the beginning. Okay, so very interesting. I wonder if that's even talking about even in the garden, because, you know, Satan's known as the great dragon. So I kind of wonder. So, you know, when the fall of man and Adam and Kua became naked. So I kind of wonder if that's referring to that. Let's see here. So we got verse 10 here. Also it says, and Moshe and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh and did as Yahuwah commanded, and Aaron threw down the rod before the sight of Pharaoh and before the sight of his servants, and it became a basilisk. Now, anyone that's not too sure what a basilisk looks like, let me show you on Google Images what we're dealing with here. Now, according to Google, and according to most sources on the internet, they would claim that this is a mythological creature. I'm going to show you guys that. And again, so I believe in this study, we're dealing with a couple different topics in this study. So I would, like I said before, I recommend you look for the video, Are Human Beings Lesser Mighty Ones, which we delved into this topic of verse 1 here from this chapter we just read. And also I really encourage you to watch the study we all did called, Is Greek Mythology Really Mythology? And it's very important for believers in the Bible to actually understand that Greek mythology is not what you could really call mythology. We've been taught that it's just myth, a lot of these creatures in the Greek religion. And I think it's really hurt us because we have not even realized that these type of creatures are real, okay? And they're spoken about in the scriptures, okay? So this type of actually talked about in the scriptures. This guy, the basilisk, okay? Just to show you, I'm going to just show you one more instance that even in the Septuagint, it mentions the basilisk, okay? Psalms 91, verse 13. We're just there real quick and move on. But I just want to show you a second witness here that this is a real creature, okay? Okay. Brenton's English Septuagint says, remember how Yahushua says, I have given you authority to step on scorpions and serpents and all that? Most likely Yahushua was quoting this. And he was telling us who he really is. If you get what I'm saying here, okay? You shall tread on the asp and basilisk, and shall trample on the lion and dragon. So again, basilisk is mentioned in the Septuagint, okay? So this is a real animal. It's a real creature that Yahuwah created. It's not fiction. So this is why we got to, what's the word I'm looking for? We have to unlearn what school has told us is myth.
Did you hear that? No.
Okay. Yeah.
What was that, babe? I know what that was, you know.
What happened, sis?
Did you hear that like it was a mic issue?
No, that was Sister Josie. There was two of you.
Oh, okay. She was getting off one of her. Yeah, she was getting off one of her devices. Okay.
Yeah, it's all good. So that was the Targum of Jonathan, chapter 7, verses 9 to 10. Mentioned list twice. Okay. Verse 1, we just went with the Targum of Onkelos to show you that he made Moses a one, referring to a magistrate, not a deity, in the Targum of Onkelos. Okay. So this is just, I want to show people because I know there's a lot of false doctrines out there. So I just want to explain to people that just because your English Bible has lowercase God doesn't mean it's talking about a deity. The English word God has really screwed up a lot of our interpretations because that Hebrew word Elohim can be used not just for deities, but for many different types of beings, for human judges, for kings, sometimes for angels. So not always when you see lowercase God is it referring to, the false gods or a lesser god. So I just want to make that known. So we're going to go to verse 11 here because I wanted to show that the Targum of Jonathan actually talks about the names of the two magicians of Pharaoh, which I find interesting. Says that, but Pharaoh called the hakems, whatever hakems are, probably sorcerers, and magicians, and they also, Janus and Jambres, the magicians of Mitzrayim, did the same by their burnings of divination. So again, in this context, the divination is a bad context, especially when you look at the Septuagint. The Septuagint usually makes a distinction when it's talking about, occult divination versus just regular prophecy. Like the word divine or divination doesn't always refer to magic or occult. Sometimes it just refers to someone that prophesies. That old word, it's a very old British word, and it doesn't always refer to the occult and all that. We kind of take it that way because we've learned a negative connotation because of the translations in Leviticus in the Torah, where it just says divination. Those that use divination, right? But if you look at the Septuagint, it says those that use sorcery for divination. So according to the Septuagint, the word divination is not magic of itself. It's not a cult of itself. Divination just means to foretell future events. If you look it up in the King James Dictionary, that's all it means. It means to foretell future events. Usually knowledge given by a higher power. So technically speaking, and please don't attack me, guys, but Daniel told of future events, right? He prophesied. Divination is another word for prophesying. Okay, so it's important to understand that because then we start getting these stigmas about these old English words and old British words, and we start trying to lump everything together, when actuality, if you look at I think it's the ABP Plus, the Apostolic Bible Polyglot Plus, which is a modern Septuagint, they translate, I think it's in Leviticus 18, they translate it as those that use sorcery for divination. So again, you could say that word can have a good connotation depending on the context or a bad connotation. It could be talking about sorcery or magic, which would be evil, or it could just be talking in general to prophesy. So that's just something I wanted to explain there, because I know some people will get confused and they'll be like, this is evil, that word divination is evil, but in actuality, it's not always referring to what we think of as divination. Sometimes that word is actually referring to prophecy and prophesying, which because that same word in the Greek Septuagint and in the King James and other older Bibles, that term will be used when Joseph's saying, don't you know I prophesy with that cup? Okay, so, but the word divination is there. So we can't just apply one context to that word when that word is used in different contexts throughout the Torah, if that makes any sense. Sometimes it's used in an evil connotation with the occult, with pagans and heathen culture, and sometimes that same word is used when referring to Yahuwah's people foretelling of the future, like prophesying. So, but anyway, I don't want to go on a tangent there. So that's basically, I just wanted to explain the word divination. And if you guys want, I can give the link to the King James 1611 dictionary.com where you can look up the definition for yourself. It's a very general word, the word divination. It's not always referring to magic. I just wanted to make that clear. So anyway, now we're going to go to verse 14. It says, and Yahuwah said to Moshe, the disposition of Pharaoh's heart is obdurated in refusing to release the people. So this shows that Pharaoh's heart was already hardened, but Yahuwah is making it even more hardened in verse 14 here. Even more obstinate, you could say. Okay, so I feel like the Targums really give you a decent idea too of how bad his heart was, how hardened Yahuwah kept hardening his heart more and more and more. So yeah, see, Targum of Onkelos says the heart of Pharaoh is obdurate, which, obstinate. He is unwilling to send the people away. So basically, that kind of shows you that that basically, it's almost like a situation where Yahuwah is doing it on purpose. He's hardening the guy's heart. He's making it so he will not let them go. Now, again, unfortunately, the Jerusalem Targum is extremely fragmented. I can't even look at that one. But you can get the idea. His heart is very obstinate. It's extremely obstinate. He doesn't want to listen to Yahuwah. And Yahuwah is doing it himself. So anyway, those are the three ones I really wanted to look at. So to understand these three verses better, I would say use the Targum of Jonathan for verses 11, 14, and verses 9 to 10 to get the context of these verses. And then also with the Targum of Onkelos, I would use for verse 1 to understand that Moses was not made a lesser God. But Yahuwah made him a master or king or lord over Pharaoh, if that makes any sense. Okay, so that's really what was going on in chapter 7. I think we might move on unless my sister Sadir, sister Josie wants to say anything. So let me just see here. Anything? All right, so, and obviously we had the plague of the blood and all that, that we read about. So we had the first plague of turning water into blood, which is kind of interesting to me because, you kind of have, you could say like Yahusha does the opposite of that in a way. He turns, his blood cleanses us. So it's kind of like the reverse in a way. So what he does for us, Yahuwah turns our sins, our scarlet, into white, right? So it's kind of a cool parallel there. So, to Yahuwah's enemies, he turns their cleanness into uncleanness, you could say. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, I think we're going to continue. I think we have time to read one more chapter. So this is going to be the second plague in Exodus chapter 8, and we're going to do the frogs. I think now the chapter verses should be equal with the Onkelos and the Septuagint, so I think I'll go back to the word software just to make it a little quicker. So I don't have to keep changing screens back and forth. I can do a parallel option with my word software. So let's just see here. Yeah. Okay, it's opening up, guys. I don't know why it did that. Huh. Hold on. Hold on a second. It's not showing. That's strange. Okay, that's a little weird. Okay, so none of my modules are showing up for the Word software. I'll have to fix that later. Never mind. That's weird. Okay, something went wrong with that. I don't know what happened. Okay, so we're just gonna go to the eSword here. All right, so chapter 8. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, "Go into Pharaoh, and you shall say to him, these things says Yahuwah, send forth my people that they may serve me. And if you will not send them forth, behold, I afflict all your borders with frogs. And the rivers shall teem with frogs, and they shall go up and enter your houses and your bedchambers, and upon your beds, and upon the houses of your servants, and of your people, and of your dough, and your ovens, and upon you, and upon your servants, and upon your people shall the frogs come up. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, say to Aaron your brother, stretch forth with the hand your rod, and over the canals and over the pools, and bring up the frogs. And Aaron stretched forth his hand over the waters of Egypt and brought up the frogs. And the frog was brought up and covered the land of Egypt. And the charmers of the Egyptians also did likewise with their sorceries, and brought up the frogs on the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Moshe and Aaron and said, pray for me to Yahuwah, and let him take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will send them away. And they shall sacrifice to Yahuwah. And Moshe said to Pharaoh, appoint me a time when I shall pray for you and for your servants and for your people, to cause the frogs to disappear from you and from your people and from your houses. Only in the river shall they be left behind. Interesting. So you have a connotation of being left behind as they'll be alive. Wow, what a concept. Being left behind is a good thing. Might want to think about that with the tribulation. Okay? Might want to think about that with the rapture. Okay? Being left behind is a good thing. Okay? So, anyway, don't want to go on a whole end times tangent there, but anyway, I find that interesting.
That's what they made the series from.
Yeah, so that same word left behind is used in Proverbs 2, I think, was it 2:18 in the Septuagint? The righteous are left behind in the earth. The wicked are uprooted from it. Just saying. Who is taken first? Who is in the field that's being taken first, the wheat or the tares? That's all I'm trying to say. You might want to look at Matthew 13 again, because Yahushua says the tares are taken first. So,
like in the days of Noah and like in the days of Lot.
So let's see here. Verse 10, he said, on the morrow, he said, therefore, as you said, that you may know that there is no other Elohim but Yahuwah. And this is like Exodus 20 before they were even given the covenant. He's already letting the pagan nations know there is no other mighty one, no other deity. Okay? And the frogs shall be removed away from you, and from your houses, and from your villages, and from your servants, and from your people. Only in the river shall they be left. So again, being left behind or being left is referring to being alive. Okay? Being left over from Yahuwah's, not Yahuwah's wrath, but in general, just being left over from destruction, you know? So, and Moshe and Aaron went forth from Pharaoh, and Moshe cried to Yahuwah concerning the restriction of the frogs, as Pharaoh appointed them. And Yahuwah did as Moshe said, and the frogs died out of the houses and out of the villages and out of the fields, and they gathered them together in the heaps, and the land stank. And when Pharaoh saw that there was relief, his heart was hardened. So his heart is now even more obstinate now. And he did not hearken to them as Yahuwah spoke. And this is something I want to make clear, because I guess for some reason we have been taught that Yahuwah wants everyone to be saved. Look at this, okay? Each time Yahuwah is making his heart more hardened. Yahuwah is causing this. He's causing this guy not to be saved, okay? So when we read stuff like 2 Peter or 1 Peter, wherever it is, and it says, he wills for all to be saved, for none to perish, you got to understand that what is Peter talking about, though? Is he talking about everyone in the world, or is he talking about that everyone Yahuwah calls for them to be saved, right? Okay, so we got to start looking at stuff in a more exclusive lens, because Yahuwah is exclusive. He's not inclusive. So Yahusha himself says, Father, none of them are lost who you gave me. Yahuwah has to give us to Yahusha. It's not like everyone in the world is called. And that, I think that's important to understand that, because I think sometimes that John 3:16 people take it to extreme literal, and there's even universalist denominations like the Universal Church or whatever they're called, the Unitarian Church, that believes every person that has ever lived is going to be saved. And they take what Peter says out of context. When in actuality, Yahuwah calls who he wants to be saved, and he hardens who he doesn't want to be saved. There's vessels of honor and vessels of wrath. And this is something we have to understand. We are on Yahuwah's chess. We are on his chessboard. Life is a chess game in a way. This is a chess game between Yahuwah and his adversary, our adversary, which, by the way, is not equal with the Father. Satan is nowhere on Yahuwah's level. That's why Yahuwah gives him like third and fourth chances to get an upper hand, mind you. So that's why Yahuwah allows Satan to have 80% of 90% of the human population on the great battle of the end times. He talks about how Satan will gather all four corners of the earth. It'll be as the sand of the sea, Satan's army. Yahuwah allows that, so Satan has no excuses. He has no excuses when he loses. Yahuwah gave Satan 80% of mankind, or more like 90%. And he only had one nation after the Tower of Babel. Yahuwah took only one nation after the Tower of Babel. So, anyway. So Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not hearken to them as Yahuwah spoke, as Yahuwah predicted, as Yahuwah said he would. Okay, the third plague, the gnats. Okay, so now we're going to the gnats, the nasty flies. And Yahuwah said to Moses, say to Aaron, stretch forth your rod with your hand and smite the dust of the earth, and there shall be lice both upon man and upon quadrupeds, which quadrupeds would be animals that go on all fours. So, like dogs, cats, stuff like that, like animals that have four legs. And in all the land of Egypt. So Aaron stretched out his rod with his hand and smote the dust of the earth, and lice were on men and on quadrupeds, and in all the dust of the earth there were lice. And the charmers also did so with their sorceries to bring forth the lice, and they could not. And the lice were both on men and on quadrupeds. So the charmers said to Pharaoh, this is the finger of Elohim. What do you know? Even a magician can admit it. What do you know? But the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he hearkened not to them as Yahuwah said. Now the fourth plague we got, so we had the lice, we had the frogs, we had the blood. Now we're going to the flies. So now, now you probably got like the just regular flies like we know of today. So, and Yahuwah said to Moshe, rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh, and behold, he will go forth to the water, and you shall say to him, these things says Yahuwah, send away my people, that they may serve me in the wilderness, and you will not let my people go. Behold, I send upon you and upon your servants, and upon your people, and upon your houses, the dog fly, and the houses of the Egyptians shall be filled with the dog fly. That's interesting. Dog fly. Even throughout the land upon which they are. And I will distinguish marvelously in the day, wow, perfect verse here. Because we were just talking about how Yahuwah distinguishes. Or the other day we were talking about how Yahuwah distinguishes his people versus Satan's people. Here we go. I will distinguish marvelously, the Septuagint says. So he distinguishes, makes difference marvelously in that day in the land of Goshen. Remember how Yahushua said he will separate the sheep from the goats? Just saying. On which my people dwell, in which the dog fly shall not be, and that you may know that I am Yahuwah, the Elohim of all the earth. So all of our brothers and sisters that are getting scared, want to move out of the cities, I pray that this edifies you, this verse here. He makes distinction. It doesn't matter where you are. He makes distinction. He doesn't destroy the righteous with the wicked. Okay? I want to make that clear because a lot of our brothers and sisters, they're getting scared. They see this, they see that, happening with the crazy times we're in. Just be still and know he is Elohim. If you get nothing else from this chapter. Okay? On which my people dwell, in which the dog fly shall not be. And you may know that I am Yahuwah, the Elohim of all the earth. And I will put a difference between my people and your people. And on the morrow shall this be on the land. And Yahuwah did thus. So, and I understand, I'm not trying to attack anyone. If you feel led by Yahuwah to move, that's one thing. But don't be allowing the news to freak you out. Don't allow, the brothers and sisters that mean well, but that are putting heavy burdens on people, telling people you have to get out of the cities, that really are twisting and manipulating end time scripture to make people think that, somehow, the day of Yahuwah's wrath is coming before the tribulation. I mean, there's all this crazy doctrines coming out. So this is why I mentioned that. Be still and know Yahuwah is Elohim. Know that he makes distinction. Doesn't matter where you are, where you feel led to be. Stay where you feel led to be. Okay? And know that even if the wicked is right next to you in the same town, he makes distinction. So if you get nothing else out of this study, get that Yahuwah makes distinction between his people and Satan's people. He's not going to destroy his people with Satan's people. Even if you live right next to a wicked person's your neighbor, he'll destroy that wicked person and leave you, and you'll be left behind. So if you don't take anything else from this study, I pray that you take that, because mind you, Yahuwah is doing a type of wrath right now on Egypt, mind you. His people are in Egypt in this context, in the same land, mind you. He's destroying the Egyptians, but not his people. Just saying. Okay? And I will put a difference. This seems to be a focal point with Yahuwah here, because this is the second time in this same chapter he's saying this. I will put a difference between my people and your people. I'm talking about Pharaoh, Satan, Nimrod. Okay. And on tomorrow shall this be on the land. And Yahuwah did thus. And the dogfly came in abundance into the houses of Pharaoh and in the houses of his servants and into all the land of Egypt. And the land was destroyed by the dogfly. And Pharaoh called Moshe and Aaron, saying, go and sacrifice to Yahuwah your Elohim in the land. And Moshe said, it cannot be so, for we shall sacrifice to Yahuwah our Elohim the abominations of the Egyptians. For if we sacrifice the abominations of the Egyptians before them, we shall be stoned. Now, to understand what Moshe means by the abomination of the Egyptians, you would have to go back to Genesis. In the time of Joseph, they considered shepherds as like an abomination. So most likely they probably, and this is more of an assumption by me, more of a theory by me, they probably had like a vegan type of culture in their land where they considered slaughtering or sacrificing animals, a abomination, I guess. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of. Because for it to be an abomination of the Egyptians, the context is they're slaughtering the lamb, slaughtering cattle would be considered an abomination to the Egyptians. And it says that if we do that, we shall be stoned. We will go a journey of 3 days into the wilderness, and we will sacrifice to Yahuwah our Elohim as Yahuwah said to us. Okay, so 3 days journey. How poetic there, 3 days, 3 nights, 3-day journey into the wilderness, and we will sacrifice to Yahuwah our Elohim. And this kind of even goes along with what we might think of, what we believe as like the second Exodus, right? Talks about the woman was taken away to the wilderness for times half a time, 3.5 years. Just saying. Okay. And Pharaoh said, I will let you go, and do ye sacrifice to your Elohim in the wilderness. But do not go very far away. Pray then for me to Yahuwah. And Moshe said, I will then go forth from you and pray to Elohim, and the dogfly shall depart from both your servants and from your people tomorrow. Do not thou, Pharaoh, deceive again, so as to not send the people away to do sacrifice to Yahuwah. And Moshe went out from Pharaoh and prayed to Elohim, and Yahuwah did as Moshe said, and removed the dogfly from Pharaoh and from his servants and from his people. There was not one left. And Pharaoh hardened his heart. Even on this occasion, he would not send the people away. So again, you see, every time Yahuwah is hardening his heart. And I understand verse 32 says Pharaoh did, but you got to realize Yahuwah is the one controlling the pieces on the chessboard right now. Okay? He's the one hardening his heart. That's why Pharaoh constantly cannot soften his heart to let the people go, because Yahuwah is doing this for a purpose. You'll see later on in Exodus why Yahuwah is doing this. So again, that was chapter 8. So we got the rest of, we got the majority of the plagues in this chapter. You got the dog fly, the gnats. Okay. You got, or the lice, depending on your translation. You had the frogs. Okay. And then the chapter before, we had the water turning into blood. So again, and so that's really what I got a lot from this chapter was, again and again and again, the main thing I got was Yahuwah making distinction between his people and the people of Satan, the people of Pharaoh. So I feel like this is going to happen again in Egypt, not in Egypt, but that this is going to happen again where Yahuwah's people are, no matter where you are, no matter where you're living, whether you feel led to be, whether you feel led to be on your own land, wherever you are, he's going to make distinction. He's going to make distinction. And there's always going to be wicked people living near you, living by you, whether you're in Missouri, Georgia, Virginia, wherever you are. If you feel led to get out of the city and go there, you're still going to have to deal with unbelievers. So that's not going to change. And you're still going to have to trust Yahuwah to make distinction. I mean, ultimately, wherever you are, wherever you feel led by the Father to live during the end times, ultimately, it's the same thing. He's going to make distinction between you and the unbeliever. So I pray that was edifying to hear, and to maybe to really encourage people that might be getting afraid and they're moving out of fear. I know a lot of our brothers and sisters felt led to move, and that's why they moved, but I'm mainly speaking to those out there that might be just driven by fear. So I just wanted to bring that up. So thank you for joining us today. I don't know if my sister Sadia wants to add anything. I'm pretty much done for that chapter.
Okay, well, as I just put a date in my mouth, I'll hold it. Can you hear me, brother?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cool. All right, so thank you for joining us today. And so that was Exodus chapter 7 to chapter 8.
Sorry, I got a call between there. Hold on. Let's see where I'm at. Okay, so my thought was, as you said, some of our brothers and sisters did move out of fear. I think that the plagues are going to hit everywhere. People are running from one end to the other. And as I can see, and now I'm hearing that even there's some things happening in Idaho, and that's where a lot of our brothers and sisters from here, Southern California, went. And, I think that fear is a fear or even preparation. Like for me, we want to prepare. If that's the place where you're going to prepare, don't run out of fear. But if you're looking for land, or maybe you want to farm, or you want to do that like Joseph did, pray, ask Yahuwah to lead you and guide you. But to run in fear is very, it could be very backbiting to you. I hear that there's other mishpuchas that are out there that all left to one area, and now this COVID thing's kind of coming down a little bit, and now they've all some of them, they've lost their jobs, they've lost their homes, they lost everything because they ran in fear thinking that this was it. I feel that when Yahuwah says he's going to call us from the four corners of this earth, the four corners of this earth is the whole earth, the earth that he has created. So he's going to call us. Just as my brother read, he's going to call us. So it doesn't matter where we're at. If we have extra, if we can get a farm, yes, it would be great to do your own grains. It would be great to do your own food. It would be great to have to be by some water where you can fish, where you can get your own food. That would be great. But to run fear and to be, together is very nice. But I think that we also are, he said, what did he want us to do? Yahushua said, go and spread the gospel.
Go out into the world.
Right?
Go out into the world. That doesn't mean seclude. And I feel like we're getting deceived into this idea that we're supposed to all be together right now, when in actuality we're supposed to be spread out during this time. The time right before the tribulation period, his people are going to be spread out. His will is not for us to all be living together on one piece of land. I'll tell you why. Because Yahusha explains it well. Okay, if you got a light and you hide that light, the world is not going to see it. Okay, Yahusha says that himself. You hide that lamp, the city on a hill, that parable. Okay, you hide it And the thing is, if we concentrate that light in one main area, all his people are just living in one main area or one state or whatever, then you're how are you reaching the world? You're not going to reach the world. You're not going to be able to witness to people. And right now, this is really the next few years we got. This is it. This is the end of spreading the Besorah. And for the most part, this is it, because I know a lot of us don't want to accept that the Besorah has been spread out for the majority, for the most part, because Christianity has done it. And we kind of want to think that there's still a lot more time because Christianity didn't give a whole Besorah. But what we got to understand is it's still relatively based on the true Besorah, what has been preached. Okay, the death, burial, and resurrection. That has been preached for ages upon ages upon ages upon ages. Our job is to fill in the gap that Christianity had. But to say that it hasn't been spread just because they've lacked the second part of the message of obedience, I think we're being very dishonest with prophecy to say that it hasn't been preached. It has been preached. It's been preached for a long time. The death, burial, and resurrection of Yahusha has been preached. It has been preached for a very long time. And a lot of third world countries have been hearing it for a long time. So we are getting very close. This is the point I'm trying to make. We are getting very close to Matthew 24:14. We are getting very close to that. Very close to the end of what I think Seventh-day Adventism calls probation period. Okay, we're getting very close to the fullness of the Gentiles. We need to focus on being where we are, staying where we are, as long as you feel led to stay where you are. And you need to, wherever you are, where we're all spread out. The reason Yahuwah has this all spread out is for a purpose, so that the Besorah in this country alone, the Besorah can get out a lot quicker. Think about it for a second. If everyone's in one little area, do you know how long it would take to reach all the other states in this country? And right now, we are at a time in history that we are very close to that period of time we have to spread the good news, to spread the glad tidings, is closing soon. We have a very small amount of time, guys. Don't care about the worries of this world so much. Don't care about the politics. Don't care about all this nonsense. And it is nonsense. It is worldly nonsense we're not supposed to get caught up in. Don't be worried about what's going to happen with the fires and stuff like this. Look at it this way. Yahuwah is going to protect you no matter what, okay? Now, and so I feel like we need to get back to the mindset of the believers in the first century. They were ready to die. They were ready to die for their belief at any moment. We need to get back to that. We need to stop worrying about, oh my goodness, this is going to burn up. It's going to burn up my business. Oh, well, the mark of the beast is going to come in the next couple of years. So we need to let go, honestly, of worried about, how much money we're going to make. Those of us like me that don't have a job yet. Look, listen, the mark of the beast is going to come soon. It's not going to be much more than a few years from now, if that. Okay, so honestly, we need to set our mind on heavenly matters, not earthly matters. And this is a message for the whole body of Messiah right now. I feel like stay focused. Stay focused. Stop letting the devil giving you misdirection after misdirection. Stop letting the devil put fear in you that, and like I said, I know there's brothers and sisters that were led by Yahuwah, that were definitely led by Yahuwah to move out of the cities, for a reason. Our brother Bobby and our sister Kristen felt led to get out of there because of the vaccines that were coming. So I'm not excluding that the Father might be leading you. Just make sure that the Father's leading you. Pray about it. Make sure. Don't be going off of a hunch. That's all I'm saying. Just make sure. Pray for discernment, because the devil's always going to try to put fear in people. That's his main game. Put fear of man in people. or, fear of the weather. Oh my goodness, there's wildfires. We need to leave, type of thing. Oh my goodness, there's tornadoes. We need to move. Oh my goodness, there's hurricanes. That's all going to happen in the end times everywhere. It says earthquakes in various places. It does not say in earthquakes in one place. So that's all I'm trying to say. If you're moving because, of the earthquakes, hurricanes, or whatever disasters going on, that's going to go on in the whole country in the end times. The closer we get to the tribulation, more and more stuff's going to happen like that. Yahushua says that that's the beginning of sorrows. I mean, he warned us it's going to happen. So that's all I want to say is just stay strong, brothers and sisters. Stay strong. Yahuwah's got us. He makes distinction. If you don't get anything else from that chapter of chapter 8, he makes distinction between you and a non-believer. He makes distinction. Doesn't matter who you live next to. Don't worry about that. He makes distinction. Don't worry about where you physically live. If you live in a complex where there's 90% non-believers, who cares? If I know he has me when plagues are coming, it doesn't matter where I am, right? So that's all I want you to take away, that I would really want you to take away from today's study. Stop worrying so much on the physical. Worry about the spiritual more.
Now, brother, didn't also when the people were going through these plagues, Abba spared our own people from the plague. Isn't that true?
Yeah, that's what we just read about. Yep. Exodus 8:26 says, I will make distinction. I will make distinction between my people and your people, referring to the Pharaoh's people, referring to the Egyptians, referring to the pagans, referring to Wiccans, Hindus. Anyone that doesn't believe in the Father is considered the devil's people. And that's a study I want to do in the future with our group, with our whole group present, is what is the definition of Yahuwah's people? What's the definition of Satan's people? Because Satan's people is like everyone, the world. And that's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. Anyone that does not serve the Father, does not serve the Son, you could say by association, they fall in line with the terror category. It's by association. They don't even choose it. It's just by association. You can't ride the fence. There's no such thing as riding the fence. There's no such thing as a gray area between, when you talk to non-believers and they say, I don't want, I'm not religious, but I don't worship the devil either. Like there's a lot of people in this world mean well. And there's an old saying, the road to the lake of fire is paved with well intentions. That's an old saying that I learned from way back in the day. I think it was probably a Christian saying, most likely. But yeah, so a lot of people on that day are going to think that they did the work of the Father, think that they lived to serve him. And, even you're going to have non-believers saying, well, I was a good person. So the thing is, and honestly, I would recommend a video. If you're a non-believer watching this, please don't take this personally, but I'm speaking from the heart right now. And this is something that I'm going to recommend a video for you from a brother known as Truth Unedited. It's called, Are You an Accidental Satanist? And this is a video that I think believers need to watch, unbelievers need to watch. Because we need to understand, are we living for ourselves or are we living for the Father? Are we living according to the flesh or according to the Spirit? That's something we need to check ourselves on. And unbelievers, this would be a great way for you to really question whether you believing you're a good person is going to be enough on the day of judgment.
You say that's Netflix or is that YouTube?
YouTube, Truth Unedited. Yeah,
Okay.
his YouTube channel is called Truth Unedited, all one word. So Truth Unedited. He's the guy that I've used his videos in the past when we exposed Star Wars. That was his video. He does a lot of good stuff. He talks about the origin of religion, how it goes back to Babylon. So I really recommend, especially non-believers that are watching this right now, go check that out. so you can understand what we're talking about and what we're generally speaking about right now is this is a serious type of topic, and this really came about just by talking about in Exodus 8. He makes distinction between the sheep and the goats. That's basically what Yahuwah meant by I make distinction between my people and your people, Pharaoh's people. Pharaoh served Satan for the most part. He was like a little pawn of his, you could say. So he most likely, and according to the Targum of Jonathan, he worshipped angels. He worshipped lesser gods. So, and that's the majority of this world. In the book of Psalms, it talks about the gods of the nations. All the ethnicities are demons. So it doesn't matter what religion you're in, any man-made religion has demon worship or fallen angel worship at some form. So ultimately it's the same camp. You want to be in Yahuwah's camp, not Satan's camp. And I'm just speaking from the heart right now. Those that are listening to this that might not be in Yahuwah's camp yet, I pray that the Father's calling you, because this is a serious thing. You don't want to be in the devil's camp. So the biggest lie the devil ever, I'll leave with this. The biggest lie the devil ever said, not the devil ever said it. He got the biggest lie he got the world to believe was that he didn't exist at all. And I'm seeing this lie even going into Christianity, thinking that the devil is just an idea of evil, that he's not a physical person. And so I feel like this lie has caused so many people not to believe in the scriptures, and that's the biggest lie Satan ever got the world to believe, was that he never existed. So without his existence, they don't accept that sin is real, and if they don't accept sin is real, then how are you judging your moral code? So again, I feel like this is just a little off topic, but I feel like I had to, really say this. I felt led to talk about this because I'm pretty sure, almost like this stuff being on Facebook, we're always doing studies on Facebook. A lot of people are watching this, so not just believers. So if that message was for you, I pray that you receive it. I pray that the Father's calling you, not just calling you, that he's choosing you. Remember, there's even a difference between all that are called and all that are chosen. And it says that many are called, few are chosen. So I pray that message, whoever was meant to get that message that Yahuwah used me for, I pray that you receive that message. Have a great rest of your day, guys. All of our brothers and sisters on Facebook, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.